Emergency. That C is an S sound. Emergency, emergency, not emergency, emergency, emergent. You could say emergency or emergency, emergency wouldn't go. Emergency, emergency. No, it'd have to be emergency, emergency. Those both kind of run together and make it sound normal, but emergency, no. Emergency. It's an emergency. Open the door. So emergency room, or sometimes they might just say ER, right? ER. So with those acronyms, you have to get the pause in the middle right. Like you don't want to say ER. Take them to the ER, please. That would sound funny, but so would take them to the ER. ER, please. ER. Take them to the ER. That's better than ER, but not quite right. Take them to the ER. ER. It's like there's a little tightening of your throat in between the two that signifies that those are two letters. ER. 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 Not ER. I mean, you could say that and they'll probably still understand you, but rush them to the ER. Take them to the ER. ER. That would probably be okay. ER. Take them to the ER. ER. I don't know. There's a little tiny closing off of the throat to put a little tiny pause in between letters in an acronym. ER. CT. What's the other one? CT scan. CT. Not CT. Almost sounds like you're trying to say city. Not city scan. CT scan. We're not to C's. Oh, we're past C's. CT scan. That's one you might want to know. Or you could say CAT scan, which is so much easier. CAT scan. But CT scan. Let's see, it was a CT scan. CT scan? CT scan. Don't ever do the C, the stress on the C. CT scan. Because that's going to make it sound like you're mispronouncing the word city at CITY. And it's not. So it's always CT scan. CT or the same. CT scan. CT scan, not CT scan. Yeah, okay, confusing. All right, external. X is always a KS kind of sound. External, not external, external. And that AL on the end, external, yeah, you wouldn't say external. Or external, you would have to say anytime there's like an AL or an EL on the end, usually it's pronounced with the L up here, and it just barely touches. External. Not external or external, it's external. Stress on the second to the last. False negative. I don't know what to say about that. False negative. That E is pronounced like an A, negative, not negative or negative. Well, you could say negative. People would still understand you, but don't do negative. Not negative. Negative. Either one, nay or na. Uh-oh, my cats are biting. There's a new kitten in the house. But now they're quiet. Okay, false negative or negative. Negative are both kind of accepted pronunciations depending on where you live, but negative, no. Family history. Family. Yeah, family. Make sure you get the L, not family. Make sure your tongue comes up to the front. Family. History. Not history. It's more of that history, and the accent is on the front. History. Family. History. Fatal. Not fatal. Not fatal So that first A is a long A, fatal. And that AL is more of an sound again, fatal, just like EL, fatal, AL. You just wouldn't say fatal. It's fatal, fatal, fate, and then tongue comes up here for the L, fatal. That A, that vowel before it is almost a throwaway vowel that you're hardly pronouncing at all. It's just more like your tongue goes up to the L and there it is. Fatal, fatal. Also, the T can be either a strong, obvious T or a soft D kind of sound. Fatal or fatal, fatal. Fever, fever. That's pretty straightforward. Fever. The tongue on the lip, fever, fever, not fever, not fever, fever, Make sure you get your good sound. Feverish, 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 fever. Do you have a fever? Are you feverish? Feverish is the adjective, fever is the noun. Fever, feverish. Flu. That's an easy one. Flu. Or influenza. Flu. Make sure it's an L, not an R. Tongue up, behind the teeth for L. Flu, flu. Not fru, flu. Influenza, influenza. Stress on the N. Influenza, second to last syllable. Fracture, fracture. Make sure you get an R, not an L. Not fracture, fracture. Our tongue going back. Fracture. And that CT in the middle is an SH sound. Fracture. And the UR, in this case, fracture, is an like an ER sound. Fracture, fracture. Fracture, fractured. Fracture, fractured. Noun or adjective.